සන්ධ්‍යාවක් සියලු දෙනාටම good afternoon everybody. 6 o'clock. අපි කතා කරන්න යන්නේ මේ open forum එක. ඒ කියන්නේ හැමෝගෙම අදහස් බලාගෙන කතා කටයුතු කරන්න තමයි බලාපොරොත්තුව. මොකද අපිට එතකොට ඉදහසට කරන්න ඕන දේවල් හැමෝගෙම ඒ කියන්නේ දැනුම අනුව ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම තමයි අපි වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්න නම් හොඳ. මොකද එක එක ප්‍රොෆෙෂන් එක කට්ටියට වෙන වෙන විදියට තේරෙනවා තියෙන එකම ප්‍රශ්නෙට තියෙන උත්තර. එතකොට ඒ උත්තර අපිට පාවිච්චි කරගෙන ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට අද අපි මේ ඕපන් ෆෝරම් එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා පොඩ්ඩක් අපේ හිස්ටරි ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරන්න. එක රටක් ගැනවත් තව කතා කරමු කියලා ඉවරලා මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා. ඒක නිසා අද මම හිතුවා අපේ මේ හිස්ටරි එකෙන් අපිට කිට්ටුම රටක් ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා බලමු කියලා. මොකද අපිට තියෙන වගේම ප්‍රශ්න ඒගොල්ලන්ටත් දැන් ඇති වෙලා තියෙන නිසා. මියන්මා කියන්නේ බර්මා ඉස්සෙල්ලා කියපු රට බර්මා. එතකොට බර්මා එක අපි මැප් එකේ බැලුවොත් බර්මා එකේ පොපුලේෂන් එක අපි වගේ 2.5ක්. ඒ කියන්නේ 54 මිලියන් පොපුලේෂන් එකක් ඉන්නවා. ඒකේ මේ එක පැත්තක බෝඩ් එක ඉන්දියාව. අනිත් පැත්ත බෝඩ් එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම චයිනා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ පැත්තේ වියට්නාම් and තායිලන්ත බෝඩ් එකක් තියෙනවා මියන්මා වලට. එතකොට මේ කාලේ දැන් කාලේ වෙනකොට මොකද මේ environment issue එක හින්දා ගොඩක් අය solar energy අරිමි ඒ වගේ green energy පැත්තට යන නිසා ගොඩක් රටවල් මේ පැත්තට යන නිසා rechargeable batteries වලට එන minerals වලට ලොකු demand එකක් තියෙන මුළු ලෝකෙම. එතකොට මේ ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකට දැන් ඇත්තට තියෙනවා නම් මේක මේ පින්තූරේ මේ තියෙන මේ එක සම්පූර්ණ මයින් එකක් මේ චයිනා වල. China wants that its rare earth minerals are running out. ඒ කියන්නේ චීනේ ලොකු මයිනින් කමියුනිටි එකක් ඉන්නවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට දැන් මේ rare minerals නැති තත්වයක් ඇති වෙගෙන අවිල්ලක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට මෙහෙම තියෙන වෙලාවක් බලනකොට දැන් මියන්මායේ ඉස්සර කාලයක් මිලිටරි රූල් එකක් තිබිලා පස්සේ මේ පොලිටිකල් රූල් එකක් තිබුණා. බොහොම හොඳට දියුණු වෙගෙන ආපු රටක්. එතකොට ඒකේ මියන්මා වල බර්මා කියලා කිව්වේ ඒකේ ජෙනරල් ඉලෙක්ෂන් එකක් තුනක් 2020. එතකොට ඔන් සින්චු කිව් පාර්ටි එක they won clearly majority in both houses. එතකොට ඒ 2020 එතකොට මෙහෙම politically clear majority එකක් තියෙන වෙලාවේ 2021 දී the Burmese military seized power in a coup. එතකොට military එකෙන් power එක අරගෙන මේ democratically elected prime minister දැම්ම හිරේ. දැන් මේ corruption කියලා ඉවරලා. ඉතින් corruption කියලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට පෙන්නන්න දෙයක් ඇත්තට තිබුණේ නැහැ. ඒ මොනවාද මේ ටෙලිෆෝන් වගේ මොකද satellite telephones 4ක්ද කොයිද ඔය වගේ එකක් තමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලා corruption කියලා පෙන්නේ. පස්සේ covid rules ගැන corruption වගේක් පෙන්නුවා. ඔය වගේ තමයි කරේ. කරලා කොහොම හරි මේකට රටේ හිටපු මිනිස්සු දැන් අපේ ලංකාවේ තියෙනවා වගේ මිනිස්සු එකතු වෙලා ඒකට ලොකු විරෝධතාවයක් පෙන්වුවා. ඒ කියන්නේ they led continuous ongoing widespread protest in Myanmar. මොකද උනේ ඒගොල්ලන් peaceful protesters were gunned down. රට වටේම මොන හරි ප්‍රොටෙස්ට් එකක් වුණාත් ඒගොල්ලන් අන්තිමට වෙඩි තිබ්බා, ඇරෙස්ට් කරා, ඒව කරලා 800ක් හරි ඊට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් පාරේ මැරුණා මේ යුද්ධේ. එතකොට ඊට පස්සේ දැන් Myanmar has now become a dictatorship. එතකොට ඒ dictatorship එකක් වුණා. දැන් මේක උනේ දැන් මේ military junta කියන්නේ defense chief he is the leading man. එතකොට එයාලගේ එතකොට ගොඩක් කම්පනීස් අර මේවයි ආදායමක් තියෙනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වෙන ආදායමක් තියෙනවා. මේගොල්ලෝ චයිනීස් කම්පනීස් එක කනෙක්ෂන් එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා ඒ වගේ කතාවල් තිබුණේ දවසක්. එතකොට Myanmar is a country rich in jade and gems, oil, natural gas, teak and other mineral resources. එතකොට and also Myanmar has the highest solar power potential compared to other countries of the Great Mekong sub-region. Great Mekong sub-region කියන්නේ ලොකු පළාතක්. දැන් මේ මෙතනින් පටන් ගත්තා මේ තියෙන මියන්මා. එතකොට මේ මෙතන තායිලන්ත, වියට්නාම්, කැම්බෝඩියා මේ ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙනවා මේ පළාතට. එතකොට මෙහි තියෙන ලොකු රිසෝස් එකක් තියෙනවා. මියන්මා දැන් එතකොට හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් මොකද මේ සමහරට මේ ජුන්ටව මේක කරන්න හිතුනේ ඒක හිතන්න තව කවුරු හරි උදව් කරාද කියලා ඉල්ල අපි හිතා ගන්න ඕනේ ඉතින්. මොකද අපිටත් දැන් මේ වගේ තත්ත්වයක් ඇති වෙගෙන යන නිසා. එතකොට ඒ අතරේ මම කියන්න ඕනේ දැන් එතකොට මියන්මා මේ 2015 report එකක්. Myanmar Kokhan army is recruiting Chinese nationals mercenaries. Now දැන් මේ mercenaries කියන කතාව අපිටත් වැදගත් වෙනවා ඒක අතකින්. mercenaries කියන්නේ කවුද? ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් අපි කල්පනා කරලා බලමු. මොකද එතකොට මේ මියන්මාර් වල මේ වැඩියෙන් මේ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් කරලා තියෙන China and Russia reportedly the main suppliers of weapons to the Myanmar army. Now Chinese foreign direct investment in Myanmar is total US dollars 19 billion in 2019 compared to 700 million from EU. So that again, million EU එකෙන් ලැබුණට වඩා 10 ගුණයක් 20 ගුණයක් විතර වැඩි Chinese investments. එතකොට ඒ වගේම තමයි army supplies එක. ඉතින් එහෙම තියෙන වෙලාවක අපි දැන් හිතන්න ඕනේ මොකද්ද මේ අපිට තියෙන හේතුව. mercenaries කියන්නේ කවුද? mercenaries is a hired professional soldier who fights for any state or nation without regard to political interests or issues. මේගොල්ලෝ තමයි ඉතින් ඕන කෙනෙකුට කිව්වොත් වෙඩි තියලා ඕන කෙනෙකුට කිව්වොත් මරලා දානවා ඕන දේවල් දැන් ඔය යුක්‍රේනෙත් ඒ වගේ සෝල්ජර්ස්ලා ඉන්නවා ඉතියෝපියාවෙත් ඒ වගේ සෝල්ජර්ස්ලා ගෙනල්ලා ඉන්නවා දැන් අපිටත් ඒ වගේ කට්ටියක් එන පාටියක් වගේ තියනවා වෙන්නේ නැති කියලාත් හිතනවා මොකද දැන් මේ චයිනීස් ෂිප් එකක් වෝ ෂිප් එකක් අපිට ලංකාවට එනවා තව දවස් 10ක් යනකොට ඒක හම්බන්තොට පෝට් එකට එනවා කියලා තියෙනවා ඉතින් මේව ඇත්ත රීසස් අපි දන්නේ නැහැ ඒ වුණාට අපි නේෂන් එක ගන්න පොඩ්ඩක් අවයා වෙන එක හොඳයි right එතකොට බලමු දැන් මියන්මාර් තියුනේ මොකක් වෙලාද එතකොට හොඳ පොලිටිකල් බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එකක් තියුණා ඉලෙක්ෂන් එකක් තියෙනවා ඩෙමොක්‍රැටික් කන්ට්‍රි එකක් එතකොට ඒක memberships තියුණා මේ ඔක්කොම countries වල ඒ කියන්නේ ඒෂියන් කියන්නේ association of south east nations ඒකේ original founding nations තියුනේ Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore and Thailand. So ඒගොල්ලෝ quite good collaborating countries Asia. ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝගේ membership එක තුන BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC කියන්නේ the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectorial Technical and Economic Cooperation. දැන් ඒකට හිටියා members countries 7ක්. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar and Thailand. එතකොට United Nations වල මියන්මාර් එක 1948 වල ඉඳලා member කෙනෙක්. හරි. දැන් අපිත් මේ United Nation member කෙනෙක් තමයි. එතකොට දැන් මෙහෙම එකක් මේ මියන්මාර් වල වුණාම මොකද වුනේ? දැන් මියන්මාර් has become a dictatorship. ඒ වුණාට ඒෂියන් එකටවත් BIMSTEC එකටවත් United Nations වල talk විතරයි වැඩක් කරුනේ නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට මේක නවත්තන්න මොනවත් කරුනේ නැහැ ඇත්තටම. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අපිටත් හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් දැන් මේ වගේ තත්ත්වයක් ලංකාවේ ඇති වුණත් අපිටත් ඉතින් මේ වගේ ඒවායින් මේ United Nation වලින් ලොකු උදව්වක් ලැබෙයි කියන එක බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ. එතකොට තමයි එක්සැම්පල් එක බලමු මේවයි මේ මොනවාට මොකද මේ මිනිස්සු මෙච්චර මේ රටවල් අනිත් ඒවා ගැන මෙච්චර හිතන්නේ කියලා. දැන් නයිජීරියන් ඔයිල්. දැන් නයිජීරියාව ගත්තොත් නයිජීරියාවේ ඔයිල් රිසර්ව්ස් ලෝකේ 10th in the world. ඒ කියන්නේ ලොකු රිසර්ව් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන් ලොකු ආදායමක් එන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ රටක් හැටියට ජීවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වුණාට නයිජීරියාව එතකොට මිනරල්ස් වලින් China exports 80% of Nigeria's minerals as 2119 companies. එතකොට ඒ Chinese companies මෙච්චර ප්‍රමාණයක් කරන්නේ නයිජීරියාව තියෙන minerals export කරන එක. මෙහෙම තියෙන රටක කොච්චර ආදායමක් තියෙනවද කියලා හිතලා බලන්න. ඒ වුණාට මේ රටේ ඉස්කෝලවල ඉන්න ළමයි කිඩ්නැප් කරනවා සල්ලි වලට. ඉතින් ළමයි 200 300 හිටව ගම ආස් දෙක තුනකට හැරයක් ඊළ උස්සගෙන යනවා. ඉතින් ඒ ළමයින්ට මොනවා වුණාද මොනවා කරාද කවුරුවත් දන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ තත්ත්වයක් එන්න පුළුවන් අර වගේ ආදායමක් තියෙන රටක වුණත් ඒ රටේ මේ law and order එකක් නැත්තම්. So ඉතින් අපිට දැනගන්න ඕනේ දැන් මේ වගේ ඒවා තියෙනකොට අපිත් ඉතින් පුළුවන් තරම් හිතලා බලන්න ඕනේ මොන වගේ අපිට වෙන්නේ. මේ ගැන අපි මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා පොඩක් sixth sense එකෙන් හිතන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි our nation is challenged with governance gone haywire. මේක දැන් අපි ගැන වැඩි කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. අපි ඔක්කොම දන්න මොකද උනේ කියලා. Now we cannot wait doing nothing or doing everything to get above corrected. මොකද ඒක එච්චර ලේසි වැඩක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක ලොකි long haul වැඩක්. ඉතින් ඔක්කොම හිතන්නේ මේ ආණ්ඩුව මාරු කරන්න හරි මිනිස්සු මාරු කරන්න හරි පුළුවන් කියලා. ඒක ඇත්තට ලේසි වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. ඒක අනිත් එක ගොඩක් කල් යන වැඩක්. ඒකෙන් රටට ලොකු වෙනසක් එක සැරේ වෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. එතකොට violence එක ප්‍රොමෝට් කරලා violence has no good outcome. ඇත්තකට ඉතින් අරගලය කරපු කට්ටිය violence කරේ නැහැ. ඒ වුණාට paralyzed country එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ in the queues and protest විතරක් කරලා ඒකෙනොත් අපිට recovery එකක් හදාගන්න බෑ. එතකොට how can we still plan a peaceful recovery strategy as civilian citizens? ඒක තමයි මම අද කතා කරේ. මේක ගැන අපි පොඩ්ඩක් කල්පනා කරලා බලමු කොහොමද අපි recovery plan එකක් හදාගන්නේ. අර මේකේ තත්ත්වය වෙනස් වෙනකන් කොහොමද කරන්නේ? මොකද එහෙම කරොත් තමයි පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද brainstorming session එකක් මේකට හොඳයි. Especially to help our younger generations learning as well. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ට වැඩි තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ මේක කොහොමද කරන්න ඕනේ අරක මේ කියලා. ඒගොල්ලන්ටත් young අයටත් තේරෙන විදිහට පොඩ්ඩක් මේක ගැන කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි කියලා තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. ඒකින්ද මේකේ ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ experience එක, ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ vision එක, sixth sense එක පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරලා බලනවා නම් හොඳයි කියලා තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. එතකොට අපි leads හැටියට අපි තුනක් අපි launch කරා. අපි petitions එක launch කරා as a referendum. මොකද ඒකේ contents තියෙන එක තාමත් අපේ website එකේ තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඉතින් හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට දැන් ඔච්චර ගාණක් මේව කරත් අපිට මේකට දැන් 100කට වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් අස්සම් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක ඉතින් ලොකු දෙයක්. ඒ වුණාට අපි ඉස්සරහට යන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි ඒ වුණාට දැන් බලන්න අරගලයේ තියුණු අසාධාරණය ගැන. ඒ කියන්නේ ජුලයි 21 වෙනිදා අතර හිටපු කට්ටියකට අමානුෂිකව ගහපු එක ගැන. ඒ ගැන petition එකක් launch වුණා. ඒක international launch කරපු එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ විතර නෙවෙයි ඕන කෙනෙකුට අස්සම් කරන්න පුළුවන් එකක්. ඒකෙත් තාම 25000ක් ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. 24000ක් ගාණක් තමයි අස්සම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට අපි ලංකාවේ අපි ඒ වගේ avenues වලින් ඉස්සරහට යන්න බැඩිය බලන જાතියකුත් නෙමෙයි. ඒකට නැඹුරු වෙනවත් අඩුයි. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා ඒකෙත් අපි පොඩි weakness එකක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපි food bank project එකක් පටන් ගත්තා. ඒක දැන් කෙරීගෙන යනවා. අපි ඒක ගැන report කරනම් ඉස්සරහදී. ඒකේ IT project එකකුත් දැන් කරගෙන ඉවර වෙගෙන වගේ ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක ගොඩක් හොඳට ඇති වෙගෙන යනවා. එතකොට අර charcoal production ගැන project එක launch කරා. ඒකේ discussions කීපයක් තිබුණා. දැන් ඒක අත්හදා බැරින් කෙරීගෙන යනවා. ඒක ගැනත් අපිට report කරන්න පුළුවන්. තව ටික දවසක් යනකොට. මේක අද උදේ පත්තරේ තියුණු report එකක් Island එකේ Ranil's repression return to the 80s. දැන් අපි මේක violence පැත්තකට යන්න ගියොත් අපිට එතකොට මේකේ trap එකකට අහු වෙනවා. එතකොට ඒක රියැක්ෂන් එක එතකොට දැන් ඔය දැන් ඉන්න පවුල ගවර්නන්ස් කට්ටියගේ අදහසට වැඩේ කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. අපිත් වයලන්ස් වලට ඉතුරු වෙන්න ගියොත්. එතකොට තවත් එකක් මේක බලන්න. දැන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් ප්‍රෝග්‍රස් පාර්ලිමේන්තු. ඉතින් කවුරුත් වැඩි ගණන් ගත්තේ නැහැ. ඕකේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු එක වැහුවා. හැබැයි කමක් නැහැ. මොකද්ද ඒකෙන් වෙන්නේ කියලා පොඩ්ඩක් බලුවොත් හොඳයි. When the parliament is prorogued, the questions and motions which were not considered up until then are abolished, and the MPs thus have to take it up in accordance with the standing orders. Furthermore, the committees other than the liaison committee of Parliament, committee on high posts and select committees should be reconstituted following the beginning of the new sessions. The second session of the 9th Parliament continued from January only 6 months, January 18th to July 28th විතරයි. Under which the Parliament met for 48 days. දැන් ඒ කියන්නේ අපි දැන් COP committee for example කරගෙන තියුණේවා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට good bye COP තමයි මෙච්චර දවසක් COP එකෙන් හිතපු දේවල්. ඉතින් හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් මොකද මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එක උනේ කියලා. Now ඉතින් open forum එක තියෙන්නේ. මේකට ඇත්තට අපිට හොඳ ලියුමක් එවලා තුනයි ඊයේ මට ලැබුණේ. ඒක ලැබුණේ මේ මම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කවුරුත් ගැන ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරන්න යන්නේ. ඒක එයාට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් එක් කරනවනේ මම ඒක පෙන්නන්න තව පොඩ්ඩකින්. අද ඉතින් අපි බලන්න ඕනේ how to safeguard our values and mount a resilience for recovery. ඒක තමයි අපි හිතන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලත් කතා කරා මේ ගැන කිසිමානේ අපි problem එකක් තියෙනවා ඒක අපි define කර ගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට පස්සේ ඒක analyze කරලා බලන්න ඕනේ problem එක. මේක verify causes. ඊට පස්සේ plan එක හදා ගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට පස්සේ ඒක monitor කරගෙන යන්න ඕනේ ඉස්සරහට. එහෙම තමයි root cause හොයා ගන්න ඕනේ. multi professional input එකක් ඕනේ ඒකට. එතකොට plan එකක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. කොහොමද මේක කරගෙන යන්නේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳුම් හොයන්නේ. එතකොට have a stepwise indicator to assess the progress. ඒකත් ඕනේ. ඉතින් කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ කියලා බලලා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ බලනකොට මේ document එක හොඳ ලස්සන document එකක් හදලා ඒවල තුන අඩුපාඩු තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වුණාට කතාව පටන් ගන්න ගොඩක් හොඳයි. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා මේක ලියලා තිබුණේ මේ Grecian theories. මම ඊට වඩා ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරන්න යන්න ග්‍රේෂියන් සමහරට අද සහභාගී වෙන්න පුළුවන් වුණා නම් මේ කතාව මෙතනින්ම පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ග්‍රේෂියන් ඉන්නවද?
I'm there. Okay.
I can leave the slide if you want, but I can take it down.
I can share the screen.
Okay, so I'll take this. කතා කරනවා පොඩ්ඩක් self introduction එකක් කරන්න. මොකද මේ මම අපි leads හැටියට අපි principal එකක් හැටියට කාගේවත් identity එක release කරන්න නැති නිසා ඒක නිසා මෙතන මේක නෑ කරා. You can share your screen. Just a second, I'll make you a co-host.
So thank you very much, Chula. Good evening to Sri Lanka and good afternoon to UK. I was in London in June for a quick meeting. Had a Zoom meeting from Exhibition Street to the APSL, Association of Professionals Sri Lanka in UK. It was a very pleasant, rushed journey. Now, I mean, let me tell you about my background. I'm an engineer plus an accountant. Now I am 67 years old. I have done a few things. My motto has been be different, create a difference. So that I believe in to my grave. And I don't mind calling a spade and a club a club. That's my style. During the tsunami, I was the chairman of the State Engineering Corporation, Sri Lanka State Engineering Corporation. In 57 days, we put the Southern Railway line back in operation. And it was done by 4 government organizations. State Engineering Corporation, which I was chairing, CECB Central Engineering Consultancy Bureau, that time chaired by Nihal Rupasinghe. He was a classmate of mine. And then SDNCC, State Development and Construction Corporation, and of course, the Ceylon Government Railway. We could do that in 57 days, mangled railway lines and all the culverts and bridges and everything. So if we could do that, the government organizations, there isn't anything wrong with the government organizations. What is wrong with is the politicians. Let me take a little time. Just before this, I was in a Zoom meeting organized by the Sadharana Samajak. Dr. Sujata Gamake was proposing the parliamentary oversight committees to be reactivated. And the parliament has been prorogued, as Chula mentioned. Why? The reasons are obvious, because I mean, there is an agenda. They want to flush that agenda. And sort of, I mean, it's equivalent to creating a power cut or blackout when you want to do underhand thing. When there is no light, no illumination, you can do anything and get away with it, including burning down a house, cutting down a house. You can, I mean, even cut down on your own house, put the blame on someone else. That is what you can do. So what's happening in Sri Lanka is pathetic. The opening remarks by Professor Sujata Gamage at this Zoom meeting organized by the Sadharana Samajak, she said, people have lost ජනතාවට පාර්ලිමේන්තුව පිළිබඳ තියෙන විශ්වාසය නැති වෙලා. ඒක සාධාරණයි. Then in my comment I asked, okay, how can that be සාධාරණ? ඒක සාධාරණ වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුල ජනතාවට තියෙන විශ්වාසය නැති වුණාම ඒක සාධාරණ වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක හරිම අසාධාරණ දෙයක්. අපි වෙනස් විදිහට හිතුවේ නැත්නම් වෙනස් විදිහකට වැඩ කරේ නැත්නම් අපිට වෙනස් ප්‍රතිඵලයක් ගන්න බෑ. මේක සරලම කියලා තියෙනවා Einstein. By doing the same thing, you cannot expect a different result, and that is insanity. What we have been doing for 74 years, almost 74 and a half years, is insanity. So we have to find a new way, new path, new direction, new set of leaders, new system. So how can we do that? Yesterday, for 3 hours, I was involved in a Zoom meeting. That was the Mahajana Sabha. Reverend Omal Pesobidatero is there. Then all the Sadharana Samajak is there. the trade unions are there. So the discussion was how to get the situation under control. Now, what has happened in Sri Lanka is from the Aragale, that is the uprising of the youth, mainly youth. It is not only the youth, the entire society. Now it has been hijacked by Ranil Wickremesinghe. He has hijacked it. Now the entire country is on one theme: how to get the Mardane under control, not the reforms going. So to overcome one problem, you create another problem. The most important slogan right now in Sri Lanka is how to get this Mardane under control. That is the biggest thing. Yesterday also somebody shared the photograph of a body washed ashore near Goldface, hands tied. This is the second body, it seems. Who is keeping an account of these things? How many people in the prisons by this time? Then on the 12th of August, Chula shared this news earlier that the world is celebrating the International Youth Day on the 12th of August. What are we going to do? The theme is a very good one, very relevant one for us. How to get the solidarity between the different age groups and to overcome the ageism. Ageism is like racism. So you act based on the bias of the race. Here, you act on the bias of the age. So we are discriminated as now seniors, and we were discriminated as youth some time ago. So this is a disconnect in the society, polarization of the society. They don't want to listen to us. We don't want to listen to them. And the Naki Maina, that concept has aggravated the problem. Naki in Sinhala is no haki. You cannot. So for somebody to become Naki, you don't have to age. You have to just become invalid, incapable, incompetent. So if you use that definition, the half the parliament or 2/3 of the parliament is Naki, even the young ones. So why I wanted this preamble is to show you that what we are talking about, the national problems, is only the tip of the iceberg. We see only 1/10 or even less than 1/10. 9/10 or more under the water. Now, log frame analysis, if you are not familiar, is an organized methodology that has been there for a long, long time. I first came across this log frame analysis in 1999 when I was doing a project for Hambantota Chamber, and that was to set up a regional fund for entrepreneur development and enterprise development. So the idea is to sum up everything on one page. It is not an easy thing to do. Now, for me to come up with a page like this, I have to do a lot of research, a lot of brainstorming. And in the absence of a group to support, I have to do it on my own. It is a laborious thing, takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it is a worthwhile exercise. Yesterday at the Zoom meeting with the Mahajana Sabhava, a lady was saying, "Me sundara ලියවිලි වලින් අපිට වැඩක් නැහැ. සුන්දර ලියවිලි අපිට අදාළ නැහැ. අපිට අදාළ තියෙන්නේ බිම තියෙන යථාර්ථය. මිනිසුන්ට කන්න නැහැ." එතකොට මෙන්න මේකට උත්තර හොයන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මෙන්න මේක තමයි අර බිම්මට්ටමේ ඉන්න ක්‍රියාකාරී අරගලකරුවන්ගේ යථාර්ථය. අපිට කන්න නැහැ. අපේට ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳන්න ඕනේ. මේවා ලියලිය ඉන්න වෙලාවකුත් නැහැ. සාකච්ඡා කර ඉන්න වෙලාවකුත් නැහැ. කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද්ද කරන්න ඕනේ දැන්? පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසුරන්න ඕනේ මැතිවරණයකට යන්න. එතකොට ඔක්කොම ටික හරියයි. ඒක තමයි දැන් එන මේවා. ඒතර පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසුරලා මැතිවරණයකට ගියාට පස්සේ කොයි වගේ රජයක්ද බිහි වෙන්නේ? කවුද ඒක කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරන්නේ? ඒක මීට වැඩිය හොඳ රජයක් වෙයි කියලා කවුද අපිට දෙන ගැරන්ටි එක? තහවුරු දෙන්නේ කවුද? එහෙම එකක් කොහෙවත් නැහැ. ඉතින් මේකත් එක්ක බලපුවම ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ මේකත් එක්ක බලපුවම මම හිතන්නේ අපිට තියෙන ලොකු බාරදූර කාර්යයක් මේ ඔක්කොම මිනිස්සුන්ව අපි දාලා යන්න බෑ. මග දාලා යන්න පුළුවන් ගමනක් නෙමෙයි මේක. That is I mean stated චූලා මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර යොවුන් දිනය ගැන මේවා කරපුවම මම මේ දැන් මම හිතන්නේ පැය 10ක් විතර මම යොවුන් දිනය ගැන කරන්න ඕනේව බැලුවා. right ඒක ගැන මම පස්සේ කියන්නම් අවස්ථාවක් හම්බුනොත්. මම වැඩිපුර කියන්නේ නැහැ. 12 කියන්නේ වැඩි ඈතක නෙමෙයි. අගෝස්තු 12ට ලෑස්ති වෙනවා නම් අපි දැන් ලෑස්ති වෙන්න.
Yeah, you can do it on 7th and 14th. They both are dedicated for youth.
Right, but I will briefly mention that.
Yeah.
දැන් අගෝස්තු 12ට අපි වැඩ කරනවා නම් දැන් මම වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ අපිට UN කාර්යාලයට කොළඹට දන්නන්න වෙනවා. ඕගොල්ලෝ ලංකාවේ කරන වැඩ මොනවද කියන එක. මේක UN official එකක්. ඒතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් ද අපේ තරුණයෙක්ට මේ වෙබිනාර් එකේ අදහස් දක්වන්න කොමින් හරි රිංගවන්න. මේ තියෙන තත්ත්වයක් ඇත්ත. එහෙම අපිට කරගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක ලොකු දෙයක්. කවුරුම හරි එක්කෙනෙක්.
There'll be youngsters on next meeting.
Yeah. So
I'll try to do what you want to do. Okay.
Yeah. ඒක අපිට දැන් UN එකත් එක්ක හෙට ඒගොල්ලෝ වැඩ කරනවා අගෝස්තු 1 වෙනිදා අපිට ඒගොල්ලන්ට ලියුමක් දාන්න පුළුවන් මෙහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා මේක ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩ කරන්නේ මොකද්ද ලංකාවේ එක්කෙනෙක් රිප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එකක් මේ තත්ත්වයට ඉක්මනින් දෙන්න පුළුවන් අපිට නොමිනේට් කරන්න අපි ඒකට පස්සේ දැන් අපි මේකට ගියොත් එහෙම දැන් අපි මෙතනදී බලන්නේ ලොක් ෆ්‍රේම් එකකදී දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වය මොකද්ද අපිට යන්න ඕනේ අනාගත තත්ත්වය මොකද්ද එතනදී එතනදී දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වය මොකද්ද incompetent self-serving political I'm here right here if you can see right at the top left hand corner incompetent self-serving political leadership executive president and legislative full of corrupt politicians dictatorship supported by the constitution this is a dictatorship supported by the constitution absence of the rule of law bureaucracy and government agencies stacked with cronies, business circle dominated by deal makers, lack of informed, charismatic civic leaders, and the absence of appropriate checks and balances provide for nepotism, cronyism, waste, corruption, drift, disarray, bad governance to cause and worsen the current crisis. The current crisis was caused by certain conditions. We cannot ignore that. How did we come to be here? That is through nepotism, cronyism, waste, corruption, drift, disarray, bad governance, and other causes. Where did the nepotism start at that? Nepotism started off with DS Senanai. DS wanted Dudley to be the successor, and he had a deal with Sir Olusegun Tilaka and Desmond Wickremesinghe. In case he dies, Dudley should be the Prime Minister. That's where the nepotism started. Where did the corruption start? Corruption started with the 1956 government. By 1959, there was a public outcry that the bribery and corruption of the parliamentarians was an issue, was a problem, and there must be something done about it. Walter Thalgodopitiya commission was appointed by the parliament. Walter Thalgodopitiya was a magistrate. And he and the other two commissioners came up with a report to unseat 6 parliamentarians. 2 were ministers, and those 2 resigned when the report was tabled. And then Sirimau Bandaranaike government that came into power in 1960 July elections did not do anything about this report. Until 1965, it was taken up. There was one remaining MP, Karyappa, who was unseated. So that is a history. When you don't know history, you don't know how we got here. And when you are at an intersection, now we are at an intersection as the country. We don't know which way to take. If we go to Alice in the Wonderland, I take this example often. In Alice in Wonderland, Alice goes to an intersection. And Alice is wondering which side to turn. And then Alice was looking up and she sees the Cheshire Cat on the tree and asks Cheshire Cat, hey, which road should I be taking? Cheshire Cat asks her, where do you want to go? She says, I don't know. Then Cheshire Cat tells her, if you don't know where you want to go, any road would take you. So as a country, do we know where we want to go? What is the destination? What's the time frame? What resources do we have? And do we know the answers to the 5 W's and 1 H? Who, where, when, what, why, and how? These are fundamentals. Now, Ranil Wickremesinghe has taken over the helm of the government. Has he given us a work plan? He hasn't. So we don't know where he's taking the country. And we are just, in a bus that is going down a precipice. So this is the problem, present situation. And project area, if you look at this project area scenario, I have, made it a 10-point. Well, you can come up with comments. Well, system change remains undefined. We call for a system change, the entire country, but we don't define it. Single English and system change kind of kata karnota, single in kata karana bhi krame vensa. Krame vensa kyanne system change නෙමෙයි. Process එකේ method එකේ වෙනසක්. එතකොට මේ දෙක අතර තියෙන disparity එක මේකවත් අපි තාම resolve කරගෙන නැහැ. අපිට glossary එකක් නැහැ, vocab එකක් නැහැ. හරි. අපි අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරා. Broader civil society has become shell-shocked with no strategic control or guide the government. So after Ranil came, after he has unleashed this the operation, everybody has gone shell-shocked. Now my phone was busy with all the different messages from these various forums, but everybody is now gone silent because they know they might be in trouble if there is the wrong word in one of the messages. Rule of the law violated, emergency law enforced to hunt down civil activities. I don't have to elaborate. Countries run like no one's business, no short-term and long-term national plans. What is the national plan to get the country out of this economic crisis? How to get the country restarted? Where shall we start it? What should be the... I had a very long chat with the engineer Parakrama Jayasinghe for about 2 hours. The need for an integrated transport and energy short-term policy. Maybe until 31st of December, maybe until this year or 31st of December 2023. Energy and transport together. Then in that, what should be the prominence for the revitalizing of the economy, balancing with the relief to the people and getting the lives back on to normal scenario? How shall we balance those two? And what sort of tools shall we use in that? Now, Parakrama, he's a very, very educated person. He's a very senior engineer whom I respect very much. I think, we discussed about the solar projects and various biomass things that he has been doing, right, which I admire. But when I mentioned about certain engineering tools, certain problem, we have a big problem. We have a big problem with the how to manage the resources and the needs. So there is a resources that we have very minimal, and we have unlimited, almost unlimited needs. So how to balance this? In a scenario like that, there are certain mathematical models. Linear programming is one of the things that came into my mind when I mentioned that. He had a bit of a chuckle, right? Because we are not used to, as a nation, use the professional tools to analyze the problems. Chula mentioned about, looking at the situation, analyzing the problem. To analyze the problems, we have to use the right tools. So country is no one's business. Nobody knows what's happened. But in Singapore, country is the government is the biggest business. It is not the private sector that is the biggest business. Temase Holdings is the biggest business in the country. So if you look at Singapore, it's a different situation. People who say that the government cannot do business, they say, we must make our country like Singapore. They don't know how Singapore operates. Government is a very shrewd, very focused, very transparent business. So government, critical infrastructure, manufacturing, government means that the government is operating 3 days a week. But even those 3 days, you cannot get anything done from a government department. Critical infrastructure, I'm not going to mention in detail. Manufacturing, industries, services, agriculture, all these things have come to a standstill. Executive President has not given a plan for the 28 months. President Wickremesinghe has been appointed for 853 days. That's the balance of the term, 28 months. So where is his plan? How is he going to be held accountable? There's no plan. Because, this is very important. He is not a person who was elected with the mandate. If we were elected with the mandate, at least we can say there is a mandate. He doesn't have a mandate. Is he going to sort of, comply with the mandate, or sort of, implement the mandate given to Gotabaya Rajapaksa, or is he going for a fresh mandate? In any case, Gotabaya's mandate and his plan is redundant. So he has to come up with a new plan. What is that plan? Arrogant, snobbish, ruthless, unaccountable government is emerging. It is a threat to the people and the country. Because it is a threat to the country, our foreign relationships are getting damaged, and also we will be losing GSP plus and various other things due to the silliness of the government. More haphazard loans taken, and they are being wasted. They are Ranil Wickremesinghe in the parliament when he was the prime minister. He said, okay, it is all right. We can pay 30%, 40% premium to buy our oil, buy our gas. Because now we don't have standing contracts. We don't have a procurement process that is transparent. So anybody can come up with a deal and collect 30, 40% premium overnight. Constitution remains the #1 enemy of the people. If you look at, if you ask somebody to name the #1 enemy of the people, they wouldn't mention the Constitution as the #1. This is a document. It is a death warrant on the nation. Constitution is nothing less than a death warrant on a nation. Proportionate election system remains a curse on the country and the people. I'm not going to elaborate on this. So, under these scenarios, what shall we do? National goal, our national goal is overcome the philosophical, intellectual experience, exposure, and wisdom void in the spheres of advocacy, political leadership, macro, micro, and strategic planning and plan implementation in Sri Lanka that causes the disconnect between aspirations of the people and strategic direction of the country, and thereby pave way to end the crisis and develop Sri Lanka. So our simultaneous focus should be to end the crisis and beyond that to develop the country. If we do end the crisis, getting into another crisis, that is not good. We could be in a bigger crisis. This is very, very evident because this is the 17th time that we are going to the IMF for a relief package. 16 times we have gone and said, okay, we are doing bad. Sorry, we have sinned and forgive our sins and give us a fresh start. 16 times we have done that. This is the 17th time we are going, right? So 18th time wouldn't be that far. Might as well prepare our documents for the 18th time and 19th and 20th. So let's, okay. Then, I mean, how can we, what is the sort of the scenario that we want? So the scenario that we want is on the right hand top, people produce, people introduce world-class selfless professional leaders into the parliament, current parliament, to prepare a new constitution that enshrines the people's franchise or people's sovereignty and rule of law, and thereby establish the government of the people, by the people, for the people. This government of the people, by the people, for the people, that I have borrowed from Abraham Lincoln, from his Gettysburg speech. To live in a country free from fear, oppression, nepotism, waste, corruption, impunity to criminal politicians, fraud, deal mafia, and to make Sri Lanka a sustainable, developed country before 2048. 2048, it will be 100 years of the independence. Now, from the 4th of February 2023, we will have 25 good years, good long years. So what we consider as a developed country status in 2023 won't be the developed country status in 2048. That is definitely going to be somewhere well above that. First, we'll have to predict what that scenario would be. What are the indicators of a developed country in 2048? And then if we go the way that we go, where would we end up in 25 years? Then there will be a huge gap. The gap has to be analyzed and strategies will have to be formulated. So this is a task. This is a task for the seasoned planners who are capable, competent, knowledgeable, and they have to be backed by young blood who are enthusiastic, who have a thirst for knowledge and wisdom. That's the process. It has to be a all-in-all process. So then, I mean, what then the project area, after doing all that, what do you want? System change, defined, strategized, and achieved. So we have defined it and we have strategized it and achieved. Broader civil society has a winning strategy to steer the government in the correct direction. So the people are in control. The government is not going to go astray, right? Rule of law established, emergency law withdrawn, hunting of the civil activists stopped, and all the culprits are punished. I have not put that, right? Then countries run like Berkshire Hathaway Incorporation and Temasek Holdings. I have put those names because with proper national plans. If you look at Google, if you look at Tesla, Google was started in 1998, less than 25 years. Tesla was started in 2003. These are global giants. These are run by basically entrepreneurs. If the country wants to develop in 25 years to be a global force with 22.5 million people backing it, we can do that. Then government, critical infrastructure, manufacturing, industries, services, agriculture, fisheries, etc. Relief to the people given and economy restarted. Executive president has a plan and people and the parliament has approved it. President, cabinet, government, state have, as per a code of conduct, behave as per a code of conduct introduced and enforced by the people. I mean, they cannot be just, destroying all the tables, the phones, chairs, misbehave in the parliament. If they are not charged for the acts that they committed inside the parliament, televised across the country, streamed, how can these young people who had a bath in a pool, slept in a bed, could be challenged? We have to ask. Then all borrowings and debt repayments planned and effected under the supervision of the people council and people sectional committees. Parliamentary oversight committees should be there, that is inside the parliament. People's sectional committees or people's steering committees should be outside, shadowing them, and uh, they should be working ahead of the parliament oversight. And these two should be like the two rails on which a train goes, or could be the monorail. And if it is a monorail, it has to be the people's sectional committees. New constitution drafted, government of the people, by the people, for the people, is enshrined in that. And this has to become a reality by February 4th, 2023, because we don't want the 25 years starting from the 5th of February 2023 to be an extension of the last 75 years. We don't want that. Election system changed and the ground political sentiment and the government aligned. How can we do this? How can we do this? Then, of course, there are the inputs. People's will must be there. That has to be mobilized. New people's leadership. We have to identify new leaders of all ages, right? Strategy, global support. We cannot do this alone. We'll have to mobilize the global support. Expertise is needed. Community mobilization, communication and everything. Information is needed. Communication is needed. Funds, discipline. Activities, formulate people's strategy. I mean, if we don't know where we would be going, we can take any path and it will take us there. New leaders, they have to be very competent, very smart leaders. If you think that you are within the first 1,000 or first 10,000 in the population, we have 225 lakhs of people, 22.5 million plus or minus. We have 224 MPs. Can we say each MP is the best of that 100,000 people in the population? Definitely not. Where are the best 100 out of this? 100 in a lakh, 100 in 100,000. That is 1 in 1,000. If you are a 1 in 1,000 person, you should be getting involved in running the country in whatever the form. In a business, in the government, in the bureaucracy, somewhere you should be there. If you are not there, then that defines the problem. So, smart plans formulated. We know all smart, specific, measurable, achievable, resourced, and time-bound. Relief to people is a must and it is urgent. Restart the economy. We cannot delay that. These two are concurrent. One feeds the other. Mobilize global community support. Well, I mean, we can do that because we are very strong in our foreign relationships right throughout the ages. People's Council plus sectoral committees will guide the government, new constitution, and inspire innovation. Outputs, people in charge, nobody else. Professional world-class leadership is there, smart plans implemented, crisis overcome, lifestyles improve, government of the people, by the people, for the people established, Sri Lanka, a developed country before 2014. For one, I'm very committed to this. I think we can mobilize people to this scenario. We have to inspire them. You have to inspire them so that they voluntarily perspire. This is not a difficult thing. When Gotabaya Rajapaksa came into power, the boys, girls, adults, they came out, they started painting the bridges, walls. I spent 4 hours on Jayala Bridge. I used to live at Jayala. Last 2 years I have been in Australia. Right now I am in Minnesota, USA. But I'm camped here working on the issues of Sri Lanka for the last 1 month. So those 4 hours, I experienced something very unique. These boys, girls, they were painting, and there was the business. There were the businessmen. They were bringing the food, snacks, biscuits, and everything. And then, well, I mean, there was this great fellowship, great upbeat about the future. that is going to unfold. But that was like dew which has gone dry in no time. So it is very important that we rise to the occasion, each one of us. We cannot say, I mean, you do it and I'll support it. No, you do it and we all support each other. With that, thank you very much for the opportunity. Good luck. And any questions, any comments? I will answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Gracian. It's not thank you, really grateful that you presented a kind of outline that we should follow, and also a different route to achieve the goals that we want. And that is why we also tried to launch a petition to request a referendum to institute certain things in our constitution. So anyway, I think you outlined a plan that may be practical and realistic, and then if we get together as small groups even, we may be able to educate more people and get involved. Can I also ask you to, if possible, be involved on 7th, because Lakshman, who is in the audience, is going to do a presentation, but I have also invited several youngsters, university students, etc., who can present their problems, and then that will be an opportunity to try to help them in a way to learn these things, how to overcome these problems in their lives for our country. And thank you so much once again. I think the audience will have many comments, please.
Yeah, well, before that, Chula, let me share one more thing, if I can find it. Right, this one. Okay, I will share that again. Yeah. Where is my?
You can see it.
Yeah, yeah, you can see it. Yeah. Now, this particular line is from a film. ළමයින්ට උනා නිදා ගන්න නම් සින්දු කියන්න ඕනේ නෑ. නිදාගෙන ඉන්න ළමයි නැගිටන්න තමයි දැන් සින්දු කියන්න ඕනේ. මේ කියන්නේ අනුලා කරුණාතිලක. චිත්‍රපටයේ KW පෙරේරා නිෂ්පාදිත ඉහත ආත්මීය චිත්‍රපටය 1972. 1972 71 කරල්ලෙන් පස්සේ ආපු චිත්‍රපටයක් මේක. right? ඒතර මේකේ ලස්සන මේවා එකක් තියෙනවා. මෙන්න මේක තියෙනවා මේකේ වීඩියෝ එකේ තියෙන මේවා එක. ෆියුචර් කියන වචනේ ළමයිට මේව කරලා ළමයි 6 දෙනෙක් විතර ඉන්නේ. right? මේකේ නන්දමාලිනී කියන සින්දුව මේක. අද පමණක් නොවේ අපිට හෙටක් තියෙනවා අරුණල්ලු කැන් හිනහීනව දිනක් ලබනවා. අඳුරින් බාරා කර තුල මැණික් දිලෙනවා ඉසබස රැස අපේ අතින් එළියක වැටෙනවා. උදාසීන ජාතිය නිදි කිරා වැටෙන්නේ උදාරතර හැඟුම් පැතුම් නැත ලියලාන්නේ. උදාගිරෙන් නිදා වෙමින් හිරු වෙනවාසේ නවෝදයක් බිහි කරලමු අපි ඉතිහාසයේ. මොනිසිරිපා පියුම් පිපුණ මේ මහ දෙරණයි දිගන්තයේ ජය තද දජ නැගු හෙළදෑ වරුණයි. එම බැතියෙන් අභිමානයෙන් මුළුලුව සුවඳයි මෙම නිදායන් තිවි හිමියෙන් අපහට උරුමයි. පද ජනනය පදමාලාව කරුණාරත්න අබේසේකර සංගීතය ප්‍රේමශ්‍රී කේමදාස මේ තුන් දෙනාගෙන් නන්දාමාලිනී තාමත් අපිත් එක්ක ඉන්නවා. right? එතකොට දැන් මේක මම පොඩ්ඩක් එහාට මෙහාට කරලා තියෙනවා මේ පැත්තට මේකේ තියෙන ලොකුම ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ අද පමණක් නොවේ අපිට හෙටක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේ කියන්නේ අද විතරක් නෙමෙයි හෙට තියෙනවා. එතකොට අද ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ හෙට තමයි අපිට ඕනේ කියන එක. මේක බාලගිරි දෝෂය වගේ වැඩක්. අද නොවේ හෙට. බාලගිරි දෝෂය අද නෙවෙයි හෙට. එතකොට මෙතනින් අපිට එන්න එළියට එන්න නම් හෙට පමණක් නොවේ අපිට අදක් තියෙනවා. මම මේකේ පදවැල වෙනස් කරලා තියෙනවා. දිනා ගනිමු ඒ අද අපි හෙටත් දිනනවා. කඳුලෙන් පිර net තුල සුබ පැතුම් දෙලෙනවා. දස රස බස හඳුනන අපි ඒ පුබුදනවා. ස්වාධීන හැඟුමෙන් ජාතිය පිබිදෙන්නේ ලෝදිනනා ගමනයි අපි මේ ආරම්භය. උදා වෙමින් හිරු වෙන වාසේ නවෝදයක් බිහි කරලමු අපි අද දවසේ ඉතිහාසෙ නෙමෙයි. right? දහස් ගණන් දිවි රැකගත් මේ දෙරණයි දිගන්තයම පෙම් බැදි අප සතු දෑ එමටයි. අනන්තයට අප යාවන රට දිනු සයුරයි මෙම නිදහන් දිවියෙමියෙන් සුරැකුම උරුමයි. එතකොට මම මේ යොවුන් දිනත් එක්ක බලනකොට මට මේක මතක් වුණා මේ සින්දුව. ඒක අරගෙන ඉවරලා මම මේක පොඩ්ඩක් යාට මෑට කරා. මේක නන්දාමාලිනීටම කියලා ඉවරලා කියව ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් තවත් තරුණ ළමයි කට්ටියක් එක්ක මම හිතන්නේ ඒක ලොකු දෙයක් කියලා. ස්තුතියි.
You got telepathy. I was also thinking about Andaman.
Mm.
Anyway, so yes, we'll try to do that. We'll try to do that. Thank you for showing that. And please get involved with the Youngsters Forum. I will try to link you up as soon as this meeting's finished. Okay, thanks, Gretchen. Anybody else who want to talk? It was a great talk by Gretchen. Anybody else, please come forward. It's everybody's ideas are valuable. Don't see undermine, because we see the Lakshman. Yes, Lakshman, you're there.
Yes, Tula. I was very happy to listen to this quite impressive presentation by Mr. Gretchen Pires. I have a few questions. First of all, I don't mind postponing my presentation next Sunday and giving more time to this kind of presentation, either extension of this discussion or something much more relevant for the present time.
No, I think yours will be relevant for it as well. So that's why I thought we'll keep
Right,
it
right.
at least.
So let's decide it. Okay, I have a couple of very short questions. It's an excellent presentation. I think his poster giving the summary of the work plan, this is ideal as a startup document. Where even our constitution can be built upon this kind of summary document as having it as a base. So I have a couple of things. Now, in the present scenario, it looks like we have two options in front of us, still not decided. Either now it looks like the next 2 years, the remaining period, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe will continue as the president and backed by the Pohottuwa MPs, which has a majority in the parliament. That is going to be the situation as far as things happening are concerned. The other option is to go for an election, fresh election, as the opposition parties, Sajaba and JVP and other groups request for a fresh election within 6 months or so, with or without a new constitution is the other option. But chances are that Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe will continue, as Mr. Gretchen Pires mentioned, without a public mandate. Now, he didn't come through a public mandate. He came through a parliamentary mandate. So he is not responsible for the people. He is responsible for the parliament only. And actually, it may be a deficiency in the constitution in a situation like this, where the incumbent president leaves and a new person takes over. There should be guidelines how long he can proceed. Within 6 months, another fresh election or something. Now, in the present case, there are no such guidelines, conditions. So he can continue for 2 years without a public mandate, without a plan, as he quite rightly mentioned. So that is one thing. That is probably the situation in the country. Now, now we talk about preparing a new constitution. Who will prepare this new constitution? If we want a new constitution before an election, it will be the same parliamentarians who are in there at present will do the constitution. I mean, according to the law, I think it's a parliamentary will be converted into a constitution assembly and draw up the new constitution. So how much the public input, like these excellent ideas, how can we include them in a new constitution? What is the strategy, or what is the medium to do that? These are the questions. Otherwise, it will be end up with another stereotype constitution, which favor the MP's interest, not the people's interest. I think we have to also, if we remember Professor Lakshman Jayatilaka's report after the 1972 April insurgency, there's an excellent report by Professor Lakshman Jayatilaka. It is well accepted by all the subsequent governments, which is not being implemented at all, I think. So these are my concerns. We need a new constitution. Who will frame up the constitution? How can we input these ideas which Gresham mentioned? These are the concerns. Thank you very much.
Okay, since you talked about constitution, our petition is actually about certain things that needs to be included in the constitution from a referendum. So that might create or propagate a revision. That's what we were trying to do. Anyway, Mervin and Ranjan, you both have raised hands. Who wants to go first? Mervin?
Ranjan, you go first.
Okay, Ranjan.
Chula, are you inviting me to start? Or?
Yes, please. Yes, you can talk. Yeah.
Thank you, Chula. First of all, let me congratulate Gresham for providing a lot of food for thought that can run into many pages and many discussions like this. I'll just pick a few. He was talking about the next election. As things stand, I don't think we can expect the other election before the constitutionally required time, which is about 2 years and a few months. I don't think we can, there is no way we can hold the election earlier. What we can convert that into an advantage so that we can use that time to plan meticulously and avoid all the pitfalls and not repeat the mistakes that have been made. What I have seen during this period of 74 years is we keep on repeating mistakes. And that saying that history repeats. I don't see any reason why we should repeat. There are a lot of examples I can give you. For example, the Jennings Constitution tried to separate the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and he introduced into the Constitution the commissions, Public Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission. We did away with it. You see, we changed created a new constitution. We did away with it. Now we want to go back to it also. See how we keep on, there is no principled way of thinking. The way we think, we want to now go back to the Jennings's what ideas. Okay. Then 19th Amendment to the 20th Amendment. Now we want to go back to the 19th Amendment, Westminster system, executive presidency. Even the people who are talking about constitutional reform, have they gone into any depth? I don't think so. I'll give you the reasons. You see, the way we have had 3 constitutions. We have had 3 constitutions. Have we addressed the core, the major faults that these constitutions have brought up? For example, 1, sovereignty belongs to all the people of this country. All the people. All is all, no exception, right? That is, whether you are a Muslim, Sinhalese, Buddhist, Tamil, Hindu, Burgher, anybody, if you are a citizen, then sovereignty belongs to you as well. But through 3 years of constitutional play, it has come about that a certain ethnic group of people have cornered the sovereign powers of all the people of Sri Lanka. That we all know now, I don't have to explain all that in detail. The sovereign group, the sovereign powers that belong to all the people of Sri Lanka has been cornered, and to the detriment of the whole country, including those people who, the community that cornered cornered the sovereign power of all the people. If you really objectively, professionally, and scientifically analyze it, that is the God's own truth. And we are suffering today as a result. That is one major mistake that we have made. What provision these people who are talking about writing a new constitution, reform, change, making amendments to the constitution, have they addressed this issue? No, they have not. If I'm wrong, please tell me. That's one. I'll give you another. We have today, as our president, ruling over all of us, a person who was rejected by the people, soundly rejected. We have today as our president, the people who have rejected. I see this as a constitutional, a serious flaw in our constitution. Our constitution should never have allowed it if it has been properly formulated. That is a terrible flaw. It has not. You don't see it in any country such a happening in any country anywhere in the civilized world or even in the uncivilized world. If I'm wrong, tell me. Please correct me. Tell me. It has made a mockery of democracy. By skewing the constitution through legal technicalities, it has become possible for a person whom Sri Lanka roundly rejected. You see, he lost his seat, he led a party lost, and every single candidate of his party also lost. And what do you think? We have slapped the sovereign people in the face by making him the president. Is it surprising then that the world community has not congratulated him? Is it surprising? The world community, international community, has, except for two, those two doesn't have much regard for our values that you and I and all of us treasure. Only those two, nobody else has. And now this is going to have a tremendous impact. Tremendous impact when we go to the IMF. You see, and I think this is a very good opportunity to remind IMF that whatever aid they give should be given to a government the people have confidence in, which in other words means that it should be a condition of IMF aid that a general election should be held and a new government elected, and IMF should be given aid should be given to that government. The people have confidence in. It makes a lot of sense because the whole world that knows that the present composition of our parliament, the present is corrupt and is the main reason for the country's bankruptcy. Some countries have openly, very diplomatically, of course, have said that they want to help Sri Lanka, I can mention names of those countries as well. But they are very diplomatically, they have said they won't help. They can't help. Because if they give that money to the present people in power, they are not very sure that money will reach the people, or whether they will, or that also will end up in Seychelles or Burma or some foreign bank, Dubai or Seychelles or Uganda or someplace. So they don't want to, for that reason. Our chances of getting, I think our chances of getting assistance in this situation will go up by over 50%. If a new government takes over, if a new government takes charge. So this is another factor we have to take into consideration both in the short term and in the long term. See, when we are thinking of changing, writing a new constitution or amending the new constitution, amending the present constitution, I think that we have to, this lacuna has to be filled to ensure that hereafter, this kind of corruption will not happen again. In other words, you see, we are, I never saw anywhere certain principles being recognized, enunciated prior to the writing of a constitution. One such principle is accountability. For example, if our present constitution and even the previous constitution, if we had the principle of accountability well entrenched in the constitution, this would not have happened. No, we could have called our government personnel to account. And to some extent, let me remind you, as far back as 1960, somewhere in the 1960s, when Mrs. Bandaranaike became Prime Minister following the assassination of her husband and an interim period under Dudley Siranaike, 6 MPs were found guilty of corruption. I wonder whether you all know those things. Do you remember that? 6 MPs were found, mind you, 60 or in the 60s. That is about 60 years ago. I don't think any one of us, even my friend Gresham, would remember. So there is some advantages having some old fellows like me. We have some purpose to serve by helping the younger generation to help them not to make the same mistakes that our generation made. Who are these MPs? MPD Soisa MP for Raddam. DB Munakulama MP for Kurunel. CS Marika Kadwana. R.E. Jayatilaka and Navala Pichia. MS Karyappa somewhere in the east, some seat in the east, maybe Batiklo, I can't quite remember. MPD Soisa, now this is another significant point that might surprise you. What was the bribe he has taken? A sewing machine at that time valued only 400 rupees. Can you believe? He was disenfranchised. Walter Talgoda Pitia Commission. You see, he was disenfranchised, lost his seat. Another MP, I think, was DB Mulnayakulam. He also lost his seat. I do not know, can't now remember what the bribe was, but it is a minuscule amount compared to the billions that are robbed today. Now, what does this show, gentlemen, to all of us? What does it show? You see, bribery has been galloping. You see, we have not been able to stop. We have been changing constitutions, but the bribe takers are laughing. That is what it has showed to me. No principle of accountability not embedded, enshrined in our constitution. So I would like all those who are trying to write a new constitution to keep this in mind. I am not a constitutional pundit, but I can give you this, what I know, what I learned the hard way. so that you all will not make the future generations suffer the way we have. That is a very important point. And I want to tell you one more thing. We are always talking about, you know, the young, everybody is saying young generation must take over, young generation must take over. There are a lot of things that the young generation does not know. And if they do take over with that knowledge, without that knowledge, you see, they will fall. You know, in Sinhalese, we put it very nicely. Rare vatuna vale daval vatena. Rare vatuna vale. So remember that there is a place for us seniors in our efforts to improve, in our efforts to improve the future. The old people, seniors, have a definite place, something to contribute. Again, about this proportional election. I think it was, to be fair, proportional elections. It was introduced by Jia. I think, to be fair by him, I am no personal friend of his, but I think what he tried to do was to rectify to some extent, at least, you see, this one of the weaknesses of party politics. Now, this is another weakness that constitution makers must have in mind. You see, the party politics has certain disadvantages, has produced harmful results to society. One of those harmful results is what I told you: racial discrimination. Today's world, the direction in which today's world is moving, you see, there is no place for race and religion or human rights. Look at America. Barack Obama, a descendant from a slave, a black man, became president. See, in a majority, white majority country. Can we imagine that a similar thing happening in Sri Lanka? A member of the minority community, ever becoming the executive president or prime minister of Sri Lanka. I remember Lakshman Khadiraga under Mrs. Bandaranaike, when she was president. See? In fact, she wanted, now Lakshman Khadiraga was head and shoulders above everybody else in parliament and in the cabinet. And to be fair, you know, there are a lot of things people do not know. She wanted to make him president, make him prime minister. But our Sinhala Buddhist zealots did not oppose her. And that is how he did not become prime minister. If she had her way, you know, she would have, please don't think I'm a supporter of Mrs. Chandrika. I have nothing to do with her. I'm being just professional, scientific, objective, and academic. That's all. You see, if she had her way, she would have made Lakshman Khadiraga Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. Just imagine Sri Lanka's image, international image, would have gone up in leaps and bounds. It would have gone up in leaps, but our Sinhala Buddhist, inward-looking, introverted politicians and leaders did not allow her to do that. Now, this shows something very interesting about constitutions too, which I would like to point out here. I think Sri Lanka, you see, should have an executive president. And that executive president should not be dependent on parliament, as it is in France. You know, I think this is where JR made the mistake. What he should have done was to make the executive president, like the executive president of America, but for just 2 terms. That's all. He can't go. That whether he does good, whether he does bad, at the end of it all. Now President Reagan was very popular. He could have won again, but no, just 2 years and out he went. That is a constitutional reform that would be beneficial for Sri Lanka, because when you have an executive president who is at the mercy of these, the quality of the parliamentarians now, what they are thinking, outlook, they are, that executive presidents, the idea of having an executive president, the purpose is lost if he has to be bound to the 225 MPs who are, everybody knows what their quality is, so I don't have to describe them to you. Everybody knows what their standard is, their quality is, and so on. See? So I think it would be better for Sri Lanka. Sometimes, it is necessary, essential that a president must take decisions, in a forthright, firm and forthright manner. But of course, there is the big danger that he might become dictatorial. How do you limit that? Just tell him, you see, whether you may be the best president in the world, you may be the worst, but 2 terms is 2 terms. I think that is the solution. This changing from Westminster to executive president, and executive president to Westminster is, I don't know, it's, I don't think that has much intellectual stuff in it. We have not learned anything from our own experience. These are a few things that another point I want to make is about, I think my good friend Gresham referred to that Singapore experience. He did not refer to the Malaysian experience, Temasek. See, Singapore and Malaysia also tried this same thing. Will it be workable in Sri Lanka? I doubt it. See, state-owned enterprises in Sri Lanka should be privatized. They are the main reason, and it's coming, The IMF will definitely tell Sri Lanka, you have to do something about these state-owned enterprises. And it's anybody who wants to improve this governance, will have to recommend some changes to the state-owned enterprise, which is one of the major reasons for Sri Lanka's bankruptcy. So you have to, I think we should go and privatize them. Why do I say that? In Sri Lanka, unlike in Singapore, Singapore, the government is very strong. The government can tell the people, no, I can't do that. And they can still win the election. But in Sri Lanka, our politicians are weak-kneed people. They can't do that. So say I am the politician. I win the election. My man will come and tell me, sir, I brought you 10,000 votes. Make me chairman of this corporation, Yasilong, Sri Lankan Airlines, or some other state fertilizer corporation. If I say no, next election I've lost. So see how how politicians are enslaved virtually by the voters. If this is to work, then we will have to, if that system is to work, then we'll have to educate, uplift the level of education of our voters, for them to tell them, make them understand that voting for race, voting for religion, voting for because you and I, he and I were in the same school or from the same village. You see, these are the factors the voters take into consideration. to vote, not whether you are a clever man, whether you know how to govern, whether you have the solutions. Now see, with such the worst crisis the country faced, what solutions are being put forward by any member of parliament? They are fighting to become minister, prime minister, president, you see, but they are not, nobody has offered any solutions. Nobody has offered. Correct me if I'm wrong once again. You see, the Prime Minister Modi of India, he set an example. He privatized, he sold Air India back to Tatas. You see, Tatas started it. Under the socialism and populism, Indian government took it over, ran it at a loss, and Modi gave it back to Tatas. Let's take that at least as an example. Petroleum Corporation. When I was young in school, the saying was, oil is black gold. Oil is black gold. You can't simply run an oil business at a loss. You simply can't run an oil business at a loss. Shell, Mobil Gas, Caltex. See, it is such a profitable business. I'll give you a little example. At that time, we were in school. This is what we were told. In the refinement of crude oil into petrol, there are a lot of byproducts. With these byproducts, they produce all kinds of products, side byproducts. See, with as raw material, the byproducts are taken as raw material, and out of it, I think you all know this now. See, best example is plastic. Then synthetic cloth. See? Those products are sold, and the cost of production of oil is covered. The cost of production of oil is covered by the profits obtained by selling those byproducts. So if they wanted to, if Shell, Caltex, and Mobil Gas wanted to, they can even give free the petrol. That's how profitable that business was. Can you imagine? And that is what made us feel jealous, and we took over. See what we have done. Gentlemen, I like to point out today, you see, a scenario in Sri Lanka today in that context. Today, do you know that in Sri Lanka, the Indian Oil Corporation filling stations are crowded. People are there miles in queues. Whereas our Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, not a fly. Not a fly. What do you think of that? We just can't do business. Sri Lankan government just can't do business. I myself waited last week 4 days. 4 days. According to the app, this particular filling station should have got petrol on Saturday, on Friday. That's right. I joined the queue on Thursday. I asked the Shell owner. He said definitely coming on Friday. Never came. Then I asked him again on Saturday. Never came. Never came. But the app says it's coming. And finally, it was only on Sunday evening, mind you, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, that I got just 15 liters of petrol and went home. Right? You see, we Sri Lankans, whatever anybody say anywhere in the world, we just can't do business. So never talk about this Temasek or just privatize. Give back to Caltex, give back to Mobil Gas, give back to Shell, and tax them. We'll get that money. I think I have spoken long enough. I'll stop there. Thank you, Chula. Hello.
Ranjan, it's very good that we had all your comments and your history and the examples. They are really valuable for us to think about. And then I will probably call you at a later point to discuss about about what we need in a constitution. But Mervin has also raised the hand. Mervin?
Thanks, Chula. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Gretchen, thank you for that excellent overview and giving a direction. There's so much material crammed into it that needs unpacking, but at least it gives a roadmap rather than scribbling in the dark, looking where to go because it's too far down. And also Lakshman for your valuable contribution, and Ranjan for a lot of history that we can all learn from. Mine is something very short. While we are desperately looking for the situation to change, for people to have some form of life, one of the things that Chula started off initially referring to Myanmar and whatever that has gone on there makes me feel very uneasy, especially reading the news that this particular armed to the teeth, latest technology warship from China sailing into Hambantota port now, when the need of the hour is food and petroleum and medicine for the people. Is it being insensitive by the Chinese to come into a country in crisis like that, or is it something else? Yeah. The reason for raising this is that already so many activists have been arrested, news of torture, even some deaths being reported. And there is the outcry in the country and abroad, but the unelected president is continuing totally regardless, a man who was known, branded as a Democrat, a liberal man, behaving completely the opposite way, as though he has changed overnight. My unease is very much based on the feeling whether somebody else's agenda is at play on the island of Sri Lanka, and we are just caught in the middle, and people are being used for either through blackmail, bribery, or fear, whatever it is, doing somebody else's bidding. And about a year ago, I learned that the engineers, the workers, I'm sure there are Indians in Sri Lanka in factories and running ambulance services. Perhaps you know more than I do the ground reality. And I also learned that there are over 100,000 Chinese operating in Sri Lanka. And last time I was in Sri Lanka back in January, I also discovered so-called the Silk Route area, where there are a lot of Chinese nationals that come and go regularly without having to mix with ordinary people. And there's the suggestion that not all of these are workers. There are a lot of intelligence operatives or even militia in civilian dress. So this ship that is suddenly arriving at the moment, and from what I have read, has got the technology to listen to satellites, all the advanced communications, and everything that is going on, intelligence gathering. And are they carrying troops? Are they carrying weapons? And why are they coming now? So is this to reinforce, support the ruthless leader to once and for all decimate, to get rid of any protesters, and just like what has happened in Myanmar? So that is a reality, something we really need to be alert to, because while we want a plan, we want work together and start this journey from February next year is wonderful, but if a massive crackdown happens before that, there may not be the opportunity to even talk about it. So that is certainly a concern I have that I want to sort of share with you, right, in this forum with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervin, for that comment and also the warning. And that is the reality, unfortunately, we are facing at the moment. Any other comments and any suggestions from the audience? I think they're all welcome. because don't underestimate your suggestions because everything is so valuable these days. Anybody else wants to talk?
Chula, I think, there are a few questions that I may have to answer.
Yeah.
Starting from Lakshman, I think the question about the elections and this period, if you look at from the 19th of July, when the president, the nominations for the presidency was called in the parliament, to the 4th of February 23, there are 200 days. Out of that, some have already lapsed. So I have formulated the plan called the 200-day wisdom revolution. That is this one, few days gone. So this is the preparation for the next 25 years. And Ranjan said that so much has been crammed in. I think even Lakshman was of the same view. And yes, it is. Yeah, and this is a snapshot. So each of these 10 areas, we can have a log frame analysis for each of them, each of the 10 areas. So then, we will have the unbundling. Now it is bundled, unbundled, and then that can be handled. The question about the election and this current parliament. I fully agree. There are certain constitutional, because this was discussed in detail yesterday at the Zoom meeting in the Mahajana Sabha. So, President can dissolve the parliament on the 17th of May or around, March or around that, but he will not. Because the moment he does that, there will be because there are few pressures on him. One, the guys who are trying to get their pensions, they want the parliament to run the full term, the new MPs. So they have a vested interest. Second thing is they want to stabilize so that they can oppress the people and have the control before they can go to their electorates. Right now, they cannot go. They will be beaten up. It is unsafe for them to go. For all these wrong reasons, the parliament will go even beyond March 17th or so, and it may go for the full term. How can we strategize and get the best out of this parliament? One outcome is a constitution that will establish a government of the people, by the people, for the people. How can we do that? Constitution formation, Ranjan mentioned about the founding principles, like the accountability. And if you look at the accountancy profession, there are the founding principles of accounting, entity concept, prudency concept, perpetuality concept. These are fundamental principles, and those principles you start off, and the values, national values, and the modern values. So some values are enshrined in the UN charters, some others are in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And with those, you have a framework for the formation of the Constitution. Jennings' Constitution was mentioned, and the Westminster system. What happened in 1960 is, I mentioned about Walter Thalgott Pitier's Commission, Ranjan. You might have missed it, right? In my speech, because that is something I mentioned, that 6 MPs were unseated. So in 1960, March, Dudley came into power, but he was defeated because he couldn't have the Rajasana Katava accepted. He was defeated in that 1960 July elections. SLFU was brought into power. They had 16 ministers. I'm talking about these numbers and everything. They are fresh in my mind because I have done the research very recently. 1960 July, the cabinet was reduced to 16 members. Out of those 16 members, 5 were from the Senate, upper house. Until 1972 Constitution came in, we had the upper house, which was called the Senate, And the even Sirimao Bandaranaike, who did not contest at the 60 July election, she was appointed to the Senate. From the Senate only she came into the parliament and assumed the prime ministership, premiership. Together with her, there were altogether five, she and four others, who were ministers in that government. Right? So if you had that system, this sort of, monkey business, where Ranil, who doesn't have a mandate, becoming the president, would have been avoided. Because we had that pool of people sitting up there, again scrutinized and verified, and with a certain mandate, some sort of selection would be there for us to draw as a second pool of resources. People are calling for a Mahajana Sabha, People's Council, after all these years, 72 to 22, that is 50 years, right? So history repeats in cycles. We did away with the Senate, saying that it was Hamas Petiya. Hamas Petiya means Senate has had the ability to sort of, defer enactment of a legislation even passed by the lower house for reasons which it thought fit for 6 months. So they said, okay, this is intervening our agenda. Then in 1972, they got rid of the basic values of the civil service and said that was Bamunukule. Bamunukule apatiya pakil. Bamunukule kiyala kyanne, Bamunu kyanne Brahmana kenek. Recently, I had a discussion with a Buddhist monk here in Minnesota at the meditation center for the last 1 month, more or less. And when we talked about Brahmana is, Braha means broad, Mana means mind. So they are well read, they have a broad mind, and broad mind and Brahmana, they have the same sort of, linguistic resonance, right? So Bamunukule එපා කියලා ඉවරලා ඊට පස්සේ ඒ කට්ටිය වැරලා ඉවරලා ගෙනාවේ කවුද සිවිල් සර්විස් එකට? ආනන්ද තිස්ස දියල්විස් ඔයගේ කට්ටියක්ව ගෙනාවා. ගෙනල්ලා ඉවර වෙලා ඒක ඉවර කරලා දැම්මා. Right? So that was the beginning of the 1972 constitution. එතන තියෙන්නේ අර තිබිච්ච වෙස්ට්මින්ස්ටර් සිස්ටම් එකෙන් කැලලක් අයින් කරලා made a dysfunctional system without the checks and balances. Whatever the values that we had, they were gone. By that time, 1956, Sinhala only has taken a lot of people away from the country. Burghers had gone, right? So, now, about the constitution. Constitution formulation is a very important thing because I mentioned in my presentation, which I stand by, Constitution right now is the biggest enemy of the people. So we have to kill this enemy. And we have to make a people-friendly constitution. People-friendly constitution. Ranjan mentioned very important thing that the constitution, the parliament, must represent all the people. When we say people, we normally think about the voters. But more importantly, the future is the younger people, those who do not vote. To what extent the parliament represents the wishes, aspirations of those people. So we don't, consider them as people. From the guys who are born today to the guys who will become 18 today, aren't they people? They are people. So actually they are people, these people, their rights, their privileges, their future should be the guiding principle for any government to act. In sustainability, we say that we borrow from the future generations and use it today. So we have to return these resources, return the world in the same shape or even in a better shape for the future generations to use. Sustainability principle. That is enshrined in the 17th SDGs of the UN. Then inconsistencies. Now, Branjan asked, okay, how shall we get about this constitution business? We are no experts. Well, in that case, are these parliamentarians any better experts than us? No. At least we have the upbringing of a profession. One could be a doctor, one could be a chemist, one could be a sort of, engineer, another a lawyer. So we have our own professional tools. And when we are working as a multidisciplinary team, we bring all the different toolkits and analyze it, right? So constitution, now, if an engineer can make a complete building automated, environmentally friendly from the scratch, if the engineers can make a computer system work, hardware, software, connectivity, offsite storage, this, that, and everything else, and the cloud usage and all that. If the doctors can operate on a person through a keyhole and repairs an internal organ without even sort of, splitting that guy up, right? So this is the sort of technology available. Yeah, some are in London, some are in Sri Lanka, I'm in USA right now. So we are having this conversation. So the technology is a great integrator. How are we going to use this? The aspirations of the young people. Then if we look at the 74 years of our history, until 1972, we can say the Constitution was holding. It was holding us together. It was holding our values together. It was holding our governments plus or minus accountable. Then the hell broke loose because there were certain deficiencies in that Constitution. And those deficiencies were multiplied and added on to by the 1978 Constitution. That's how we are here. So rather than patching it, we have to think afresh. We'll have to say, okay, look, this Constitution is there. And these are the fundamental problems that it has created, including this Ranil Wickremesinghe coming to the different polls and coming and occupying the topmost seat. Unacceptable. So this is another discussion. So how can we avert a situation like this? We can avert a situation like this the way they do in Sri Lanka. Sometimes, you may get offended, but I may still, give this example. Some prime lands in Sri Lanka are being encroached in a very, very cunning way. What they do is they go and clear that land, and then there will be a sort of, that will happen on a Friday evening. And some guys will go there. They will plant a big umbrella, and have a teepo, and keep a Buddhist statue, Lord Buddha statue, and then have a pirit, and then after that say, okay, this is we are going to build a religious something. That is all done with collusion with the police and everybody, and nobody, cares about it. After a few months, that land will be gone. Why I said that is, before anybody comes up with a prototype of a constitution, if the civil society, us, we are no experts, look at the constitutions and come up with something and put that in the domain, so that will be the talking point. Somebody else has to come up with something better. So we preempt anybody coming up with the lower standard by putting it and saying, okay, this is the rationale, this clause is there, and it is interlocked with this clause because of this. So we can very easily say the mess ups that we had due to this constitution. A to Z, 72 Constitution, 78 Constitution. Then it's a matter of, doing an inventory of the mess ups. After that, what was the mess up? what was the impact, how to correct it, and the particular clause. And we can get the best practices from whatever the countries. So there would be enough people who would be willing to participate in a scenario like that. It has to be a very specialized, very focused work task force. We can draw the former politicians like Faru Jayasuriya or whatever it is. We can, get the Sadharan Samajak involved or some others involved, and somebody can start it. But somebody has to champion it. Somebody has to champion it, right? Then the question about, very important question about the government enterprise. I totally disagree with Ranjan, because messing up the government enterprises was done by the government, by the politicians. Ranjan mentioned very importantly, there were the checks and balances in the Jennings Constitution. Appointment to the higher places, and those things were supervised by certain committees. So look at State Petroleum Corporation, SPC. What happened to the SPC? What happened to the SPC, State Petroleum, the CPC, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation? It goes as CPC still, right? CPC, what happened to it? It was doing well, very well. Then government was having a subsidy policy, and the other government enterprises were taking fuel, especially the CEB. They were not paying. State Engineering Corporation was doing its jobs. State Engineering Corporation was not being paid by the other departments. So it is the total mismanagement of the politics that put wrong people in the enterprises and ruin them. One, wrong people going in. Two, they were doing wrong things. Three, they are, even the ones that were doing well, they were not looked after. So I'm not going to go more into that. Look at things like the shell gas in Sri Lanka. We got shell gas to come in to Sri Lanka as a private enterprise and wanted them to do the distribution of the gas. What did the government do? They went into a partnership with Shell Gas, gave 51% to Shell Gas, 49% was retained by the government, and that company was making losses. What did the Shell Gas do? They had the Shell terminals, which was making profits. They were skimming the profits at the other end, at the upstream end. So every ton that came to Sri Lanka was paying Shell terminals a certain amount, which made the Shell Gas, the government Shell Gas partnership, a loss-making one. Look at the plantation scenario. Plantations are privatized, nationalized. State Plantation Corporation and the JED. They were ruined by, the goons. Then regional plantation companies came into being. In the regional plantation companies, 51% is owned by the government, 49% by private party, but the private party runs the place. They are making losses. Regional plantation companies. Why? The regional plantation companies run the losses because the companies are engaged in the primary production. Value addition is done by the fully owned subsidiaries of the private part. They are making profits. So it is the case of the proverbial cow. That was the joint investment between the Brahmin and the other person. Brahmin said, okay, look, I don't want to do all these things, caring for this animal and milking and all those. Look at the cow dung. I have to do with that. I don't want to. I will feed the cow and you take the milk and whatever it is. I don't care. So the government is feeding these joint ventures and the benefits are taken by the private sector, right? So these are matters of very intense negotiation and formulation. So if you are not patriotic in the core, you will be cutting a deal for yourself in the scheme that you are going to put it across. Look at the port city contract. Out of the 76 clauses, 26 were against the constitution itself. Who drafted that? Port City together with Ramesh De Silva. I'm mentioning names. And this is a private forum because I mean only 7 of us here. So he did that. Then later you find that Ramesh De Silva was to head the Committee on Constitutional Reforms. A guy who came up with a scheme that is against the constitution, he is put as the head of the constitution reforms. So if we look at all these things, we see everywhere these sort of things are happening. So we can talk about the ailments. We can talk about perils. We can talk about the risks. We can say that this doesn't work in Sri Lanka. Can we make a Sri Lanka that these things work? That is our challenge. Are we saying that Sri Lanka is corrupt? Sri Lanka is not fit for anything. And because of that, we have to privatize everything. Or we can say, okay, proudly Sri Lanka works. Law and order upholds in Sri Lanka. The meritocracy, MPH, meritocracy, performance, and honesty works in Sri Lanka. That's the way we are. So thank you very much. I have taken long.
Thank you, Gretchen, for that explanation. And there's quite a lot of valuable point, and also suggestions have come through the chat as well. And we normally conclude at about 2 hours, but Ranjan has raised the hand. Ranjan, you want to make a comment, and we'll conclude here. And I'll
Yes.
be very grateful, Gretchen, if you can join us to prepare the 7th and 14th discussions and activities which are really dedicated for the youth and youth's explanation and understanding. So, Ranjan, yes, you can go ahead now.
Thank you, Shula. Just 2 points, Gretchen. You mentioned about, I don't know whether I got you right, but you tried, you referred to Sirima Bandaranaike becoming the Prime Minister through the Senate in somewhere in the 60s. That is correct. But I don't know whether, but I think that is not the same as, it's not the same as Ranil Wickremesinghe becoming president. For these reasons, there are vast differences. For this reason, before the election in 1960, the electorate, the country was told that the SLFP leader is Sirima Bandaranaike, and if the SLFP wins, that she will be the Prime Minister. So the people voted for that, on that understanding, right? And she found a technical way. I think if this is the only way, I think you can justify a technicality of this nature. So having got the mandate from the people, she was from the same party. The party that won the election in parliament was also from the SLFP, same party. And through that, through the Senate, she became Prime Minister. Perfect. I think that's perfectly legal, and it is in the true spirit of the Constitution. Whereas in the case of Ranil Wickremesinghe, he is not even a member of the SLPP. He's a UN party. He's another, and that UNP was totally rejected, 100% rejected by the people, right? And the SLPP, for other reasons, I can say that, and the whole country believes it also, SLPP, just to save their own skins, the leader's skin, they came to an understanding with Ranil and made him the president, not for the love of the country, not for the love of the people, but to save their own skins. Those who robbed the country, to save themselves. So I don't think that comparison is correct, Grisha. You see, not in the correct
yeah,
spirit.
yeah. Very, very quickly, Ranjan, I didn't, compare it that way. What I said is, basically, people are clamoring for a people's council. What I said was, in that system, there was a people's council. There was an alternate leadership role approved by and verified by, ratified by people. So from there, you could, from that reserve, you can draw into the parliament to fill the gaps in the parliament, like the ministerial positions. So I was not talking about I was not comparing Ranil Wickramasinghe. What I said was this constitutional trap that we are in would have been avoided if such an arrangement was there, if a reserve was there, like in that particular form and style, right? Not that, I fully agree with you that RW's appointment cannot be justified by any standard, full stop. Okay. But had we got a reserve like that, Ali Sabri rendered his resignation and said, okay, not only I'm resigning from the finance minister portfolio of the finance, but I'm resigning from the national list also, to give that path for somebody expert from outside to come in. So they admitted that there wasn't anybody who was an expert on the finance to run the country at this juncture in our need. So he said, okay, let me vacate this post and let me vacate my MP position so that somebody can be ushered in. So if we don't have to do that, if we have another reserve up there from where we can draw, like in the 1960s, there were 5 senators inside the cabinet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen, for that. And it's more than 2 hours now, so I think we should conclude for today. And I thank everybody for your contributions, and it's all valuable. And the differences in opinion is normal thing, and we should learn how to tolerate that and then argue and come to a conclusion. So this is what we are doing, and that's very good. And Christian, I just want to mention that actually, although you thought this is a private forum, it's not really a private forum, because I'm actually recording this and it's available later on online for anybody to see. So we don't waste what we have generated through discussion. That's basically why I record and then put it online. But if there's anything that you want me to delete, please let me know before I do that. So if you can email me tonight, that would be good. Any questions, anything else at the moment, or any suggestions at the moment before we conclude?
Chula, one thing, about the 7th and 14th, I have some ideas, and as I get the ideas, I will, put it across to you, and with all those undisclosed names. Is that all right?
Yeah,
and
yeah, I will connect it to the correct people, so you can
right.
get it. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Then the second thing is, I don't have any issue with you sharing this recorded.
Okay.
Well, I'm quite all right with what I said, and I can say that at any forum.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much.
Chula, there is one point. This
Yeah.
is, the Dr. Reddy's invitation to host discussion. Can all of you also join in on?
Yeah, this is another thing that Branjan has done is gone to this DTPR channel, which is a YouTube channel, and they invited for a discussion. And I want a few people has already responded, about 3 or 4 people, and it will be good for you to join. I can give you about a week's notice when it's going to happen. It's not the date not been decided, but he wants various photographs and comments and everything as well to be submitted for this. So if you have anything to say in a public forum, this is a public forum. That's the interviewee is from India, isn't it? He's from India. But there's a lot of relevance to talk about. I think it was triggered by Ranjan. He wrote about the risks we have in relation to Chinese loans in particular. And that's why he has invited us to talk. But we are open. We can talk of any subject, any relevance, and you will all be pinpointed or pinned into the forum. So everybody will see who is talking whilst this discussion is going on. I think it's about maybe 1 hour discussion. So please let us know if you are willing to join that, and I'll form a small group and then try and get a time and a date for it. Thank you, Ranjan. Anything else for that?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So thank you for all the suggestions and everything. Don't feel that these are just discussions, that we try to activate it as much as possible and bring it to action. And there was also comment during the discussion saying, why are we not talking about the fuel crisis, food crisis, and etc. And in fact, we have put various things in place. We are trying what we can do to try and address these issues. But what is most important is to address the root causes, because otherwise these problems are never going to go away. That's why we are discussing these kind of matters at this particular moment. Yeah, thank you for everyone's contributions. Thank you so much. And then we will meet again. And 7th and 14th will be mainly for young people to talk their problems and visions and etc. And you can contribute with your advice, etc. and your expertise. Great. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. Goodbye for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.